He spent 13 years in the league as one of the NFL's top safeties. Along the way, Malcolm Jenkins was a three-time Pro Bowler and two-time Super Bowl champion, but he also has made an impact off the field. Jenkins remains a champion of social justice, and his activism can be seen in his work with the Malcolm Jenkins Foundation. We are happy to be joined in studio by the NFL standout himself, who now has a new book out, What the Winners Won't Tell You. Malcolm, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I want to just start right out with the title, What Won't Winners Tell You?
You got to read the book to see the whole thing. It's not a step-by-step, thing, but it's definitely one of those things. When we see winners and people who are successful, we usually see the end product, and there seems to be a gap between us and them. But what we don't really realize is there's a process to that success. There's things that they had to learn along the way, and evolution that had to take place, and many losses that they've learned from. And so for me, this is an opportunity to kind of unveil the inner workings of my 13-year career and show people exactly what made me me.
You retired in 2022, didn't waste any time. What made you decide, I want to walk through these parts? I need to write all this down.
Yeah, I actually started writing it while I was still playing. That last year, I could just tell that, it was getting to the end of the road of my career. And as an athlete, so much is written about you. So many people say things about you, and rarely do we get to tell our own stories. And so it was a little therapeutic for me to go back through all of these games, all of these situations, and connect the dots between, what people see today and those moments that made me who I was, the people who've influenced me along the way, and those experiences that have shaped who I am.
But you don't just talk about those 13 years in the NFL. You actually take us all the way back to kindergarten, learning the lyrics of Lift Every Voice and Sing, Ohio State becoming a Q, Omega Psi-Phi. And I'm just curious why you decided, I'm going to take it way back.
Because that's the part that people don't see, right? We've all watched the Super Bowls and things like that, but what you don't see is what led up to those moments where, my grandmother pushes me outside and tells me to fight for myself, right? That's why you see me as a person who's constantly using his voice and defending his people in his neighborhood. Those lessons were put into me early.
You also talk us through your football career, obviously, from Ohio State, the Saints, the Eagles, and not only that, but winning Super Bowls against arguably the best NFL quarterbacks of all time, Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. When you look back, what do you make of it all?
I look every day now, and I'm watching each week how many, nights a week that football dominates the prime time, right? How we as a society wrap ourselves around this game. And I'm almost taken aback to know that I was sitting stage at that stage, and being a part of it. So I'm extremely grateful.
You also write about your leadership and your involvement in the peaceful protests in the locker room. And you write, normally before games, I didn't notice the crowd. It was like white noise and vibrations mostly. But this night on primetime football, Monday night, I felt like the world was watching. As we went through our normal game day routine and took to the field, this time felt anything but normal. You were one of the first players to start that NFL group chat about the players needing to do something. Take us back to that moment.
Yeah, Colin Kaepernick started something when he took a knee, right? A conversation was birthed out of sports and went around the world, where you had young people and activists coming together trying to figure out what to do. And I realized that wasn't just like a flash moment. This is an opportunity. And so we began to try to organize, which I learned was a very difficult thing to do. But what we got out of it was the Players Coalition. And what started with a group of about a dozen players is now expanded to represent players in over a dozen professional sports leagues, doing work all over the country.
I just want to go back to a point you made earlier. You talked about suffering from anxiety. I think a lot of people are going to look at you and your career and say, what? Not Malcolm Jenkins. How did you cope with that?
I didn't cope with it very well at first, because I tried to compartmentalize it. I had the same thoughts is what you just said. Like, well, come on, you have everything. You shouldn't feel this way. But anxiety doesn't really
discriminate.
Doesn't really work like that. And so I struggled, and it got to the point where it was so bad that I had to ask for help. I was scared. And that's something I don't do often. And so I share that because it was one of my most vulnerable moments. But asking for help led me into understanding myself a little bit more, understanding my role as a leader, what I could handle, what I couldn't, what was my responsibility and what wasn't. And what I could do, I should do, but what I can't is I have to be okay with, not. And I think that's something that we all struggle with, right? It's trying to be everything for everyone, and that's just really not the reality.
Malcolm, so good to talk with you and have you on the show. Really appreciate your time. Want our viewers to know that his new book, What Winners Won't Tell You, is now available wherever books are sold.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.